What if you didn't choose the paranormal? What if it chose you? Tonight on Alien Agenda, Colonel Gene sits down with Keegan Cool, a Colorado-based investigator who spent over a decade chasing ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, and everything in between. But before the equipment, the investigations, and the YouTube channel, there was a house that changed everything. Keegan's story is one that started with questions and never stopped asking them. Let's get into it.
Hi folks, it's Colonel Gene again on Alien Agenda. This evening we're going to interview Keegan Cool. He has a whole pile of videos, and I was really impressed by some of the stuff that I saw. Welcome, Keegan. Tell me a little about yourself.
Well, thank you, Gene, for having me on. Yeah, I've been doing YouTube for how long? Probably like at least over 10 years at this point. But yeah, we started out as a pure ghost hunting group in 2007, kind of unofficially, and then officially in 2008. And since then, we've kind of just grown into all our plethora of interests. I'm kind of eclectic like that, I suppose. But yeah, we got ghost hunters on our group. We got people that do ufology or cryptids. And then I'm also big into history. So we've done a lot of work with historical stuff and finding stuff there, as well as prehistory, because my first love was dinosaurs, and I don't think that ever went away. So,
Well, I noticed that you have a relationship with Aaron Mutter,
Mhm.
Ghostbusters. We interviewed Aaron a couple of weeks ago, and it was very interesting, an interesting individual. I met him out in Roswell this year. Were you out at Roswell this year?
Yes, yeah, we've been going since 2019, and festival's super fun. I really enjoy it. And Aaron is a great guy. Sometimes I get him mixed up because I know him also by the Ghostbusters character, Johnny Jenks,
Oh yeah, yeah.
his
Mhm.
character. So sometimes I'm like Johnny, or sometimes I'm like Aaron. But yeah, Aaron's a fun guy. We been working together for 2 years now, as far as some Ghostbusters type of deal, and being in the parade this past year in Roswell because of the Ghostbusters stuff.
Yeah, we had a good time in Roswell. Tell me, who else do you work with? Do you have a crew, or are you pretty much a one-man band? How do you work?
Well, so for like my main group, it would be me, my brother, and my uncle. So my brother Colin, my uncle Mark, who started the group. And as far as like the Cools group itself, now we're up to Sam, Matt, sometimes Andrew and Alan. And then with some of my other podcasts that we do on the channel, we have different pop culture people that come on. So we have David, who also does YouTube with Abnormal Voyages, and Nick, and some of these other guys, as well as Nolan, who's in Aaron's Ghostbusters group. So.
Well, how did you originally sort of get into this paranormal? I mean, you said you also like the dinosaurs, but how did you get into the paranormal? Uh,
So the paranormal, I guess, came into our lives. I guess that's how it works, right? A lot of people don't believe it, especially like me, because I am very much like I need the facts to believe.
mhm.
And so it happened to me in 1999, early 2000, when we moved into this house uh, due east of us now in Founders. We call it the Hamilton House, but that's where me and my brother had a ton of experiences. And because of that, we started hearing experiences from like my mom or my dad or even my yaya. And that's where we got interested in. And I'm trying to think of the year, maybe 2007-ish is when Ghost Hunters started to
Mhm.
debut on the Sci-Fi Network, I think, at the time. And that's when we were like, hey, if they can do it, let's do it, because we have all our experiences and we want to know what we experienced. So short story, I guess, but
Tell me, have you personally had any UFO experiences or extraterrestrial experiences?
uh, we've had one that I would say there's a couple, but one that is definitely very unexplained to me, to the point I'm like, I don't know how you can explain that, because I've seen yeah, the flares. We've been driving when we've seen, military doing their flares and stuff, but this one wasn't that because my uncle had called and said he was seeing this light, and he lives in Wheat Ridge, which is a pretty decent, drive. I think it's like 45 minutes
Mm.
from us. And we looked down and we could see it. So we're watching it, and my dad was like, "Hey, let's go see if we can see it." And we go up over the hill in our neighborhood, me, my dad, my brother, and you can see this thing, and it was like going like this, like getting bigger and smaller, bigger and smaller.
Really?
Yeah, and it looked like it was just above the highway, and it was kind of like an orangish color. It would kind of go orange when it got bigger, and we're going down, getting closer and closer, and then one of the times it went like this, it was just gone. And so that's by far like the only like real unexplained like UFO experience that I've had. One of our members, Alan, he saw the Phoenix Lights. He
Oh,
grew up on
really?
a reservation in
Yes.
Arizona, so he got the opportunity to see that. But yeah, mine's not as exciting or widespread, but definitely unexplained. We've been to a lot of UFO sites, and it's interesting.
Well, that's my experience too. I sort of sometimes wish I had had more direct experience. This past year, we saw those. They don't know if they were drones or whatever they were in New Jersey.
Okay.
And we were out driving and we saw four of them. One was larger than the other three, and they just hovered in the sky above the road. And all of a sudden they were gone. Now, that's the only thing I could point to that I personally had. But I've talked to people that, they swear up and down that they see things that are, really, really strange. Well, have you had any paranormal experiences? You mentioned some of those. Are they more vivid than a UFO in your memory?
Oh yeah, the ghost experiences definitely are much more vivid. We've had a ton, so I don't think I could tell them all on just a single podcast episode, but I can give you a couple, and I guess we'll do a little bit of backstory. I always tell this story because it's the one that I can't explain. It's not my personal story, but I always found it really interesting. It's my dad's, and this just kind of shows maybe it's always been in our family. But when he was about 8 or 9, his papu, or Greek, so papu's grandfather, passed away unexpectedly. My yaya found out middle of the night, midnight, one ish. And so all night she was kind of trying to figure out how to tell my dad that he had passed. And in the morning, she saw him come out, and it looked like he was talking up in the air. And so she's trying to figure out, like, what's he doing? And he goes into my uncle's room, who was just a baby at that time. And she's like, "Oh, I hope he doesn't wake the baby." And he comes back out in a little bit, and he's again kind of looking up, talking in the air. And then he turns and looks at her, and he's like, "Did you see Papu?" And she's like, "No, what are you talking about?" She kind of played it off like she just woke up, and he said that he woke up because he heard like this swirling, almost like a tornado or a train, and that's what woke him up. And then Papu was there, but he was younger. His skin wasn't old. No wrinkles, and his clothes sparkled like diamonds. And he had come to say goodbye. And so he re-explained the whole situation. He wanted to go see um, my Uncle Mark and say bye. And then at one time, he had lived in the downstairs area. And so I guess at the end of it, he dissipated into like smoke that my dad saw and went down through the vents. And so that one was interesting. I didn't learn that till after the Hamilton house. But the craziest one, going back to my dad, was this was a little bit into our experiences of the Hamilton house. And me and my brother were pretty young. I would say I was maybe 8 or 9, and my brother's 3 years younger. And we never wanted to spend or be by ourselves in our room. And so we would stay in my mom's room until my dad got home, and then he would carry us into our rooms. And one night I woke up and I looked, and I could see someone with their back to the door, like they had just shut it. And from behind, it looked like my dad. And some of us were seeing stuff. So I was like, "Oh, I'm going to be funny and spook him, pretend I'm asleep, and then jump out and go boo." But he didn't turn around. And so I was like, "Oh, that's kind of weird." And then he like bent down and like reached forward, and it looked like he was locking the door. There wasn't a lock on the door, so I was like, this is strange. And then it's like it felt me watching it because it slowly rose up and then slowly turned around. And I just remembered the face like so clearly. I could draw it for you even today, but it was pretty skinny. You could see its like cheekbones pretty well defined. No like facial hair. Its eyes were like kind of almond shaped, kind of purplish blue with a purple haze around the eyes, and then like spiky hair, which I couldn't see the spiky hair from behind. So it was kind of weird, right? And it came towards me and then just dissipated. And I ran downstairs and didn't go upstairs for a while because I was like, holy cow, what was that? And yeah, that was not my first paranormal experience, but definitely if you want to know the one that sticks with me, like to this day, I can close my eyes and see it like I was back in that room. Like it's that clear.
That's really interesting. I had a conversation with a principal. I used to work for a school system, and he was one of my principals. And he had died and had a near-death experience, I guess they call them. And he was dead for clinically for about 10 minutes. And then he was revived. And he said, yeah, he said, I could see myself like I was hovering above myself. And he said, then I sort of drifted off and it was very peaceful. He said, I saw a light, just a light. And he said it was very different than any light he had ever seen. And then all of a sudden he was back, to living. And he said to me, he said, the one thing that I got out of this experience, I'm not afraid to die. He said, I really believe that there's something beyond that from the experience he had. I know for years ago, I don't know if there were a bunch of books that were read about life after life, and there were a whole bunch of paperbacks that were written about that. I had read a number of them, and they're fascinating. Some people have had really paranormal experiences. There's no other way to put it.
Oh yeah, definitely. We had a gentleman on our show. His name's Jason Denon, but he used
Mhm.
to do skydiving, and he survived a skydiving accident where he actually hit a building, and
Mm.
his right side like organs went to his left side. Like people were surprised he survived, but he wrote about his experience in a week long coma and his near death experience, and it's yeah, it's hard. You can see where if you had that, it would be hard not to believe that there's something after, right?
That's all for episode 1, but trust us, we're just getting started. In episode 2, we're going deep. Crop circles near Stonehenge, a UFO incident that rewrote US military rules of engagement, and what's really buried beneath the pyramids of Egypt. You won't want to miss it. We'll see you there.